What's going on to all my Marvel MCU fans out there, and welcome back to my channel, Movie Files. Elliot back again with my weekly recap, breakdown, and review of the latest episode of Disney Plus What If. Today we'll be discussing episode 2, which was titled What If T'Challa Became Star-Lord, and I loved the hell out of this episode. It was extremely entertaining. I love the cameos and the twists in the characters, but more importantly, I love that this episode was dedicated to the man himself, and that is Chadwick Boseman. We're going to break it all down here in this spoiler review, but before we do so, make sure you're checking me out on all my other social media accounts. If you all are new to the channel, well, welcome to the community. Consider subscribing and hitting that notification bell. That way you all can get the alert for when I drop new content. If you all enjoyed this spoiler review of episode 2 of What If, well, make sure to like and share the video. It helps out the channel a lot, but also appreciate all the support. And in the comments, let's talk about this second episode. What did you think of T'Challa as Star-Lord? What did you think of the Ravengers and who were a part of the group, and Nebula and the Mad Titan and the Black Order, the Collector? And let's talk about Chadwick Boseman. Do me a favor, since I'm rocking my Black Panther shirt, do me a favor and put the Wakanda symbol in the comment section, because in 10 days, it'll be a year since the legend, the man himself, Chadwick Boseman, has passed. So let's show him some love and respect in the comments below. So jumping into this overall thoughts, and actually before I do that, just in a few hours at 5 p.m. Central Time, we will be going live, myself, Amanda, and Chris. We'll be breaking down this episode, talking about the cameos, talking about the emotional moments in this episode, and of course talking some other Marvel news, whether it be the first reactions of Shang-Chi as well as some updates that we got for the Eternals. So you're definitely going to want to tune in live today, 5 p.m. Central Time. Seeing you all there. But going into just my general thoughts, first impressions coming off this episode, this was really entertaining. I love the different versions of the characters. I love that this version of Star-Lord is much more respected than Peter Quill. I love that he works with the Ravengers. I love the relationship between Yondu and what we get with Star-Lord, and then they give me the ice on the cake is they're playing in the universes of two of my favorite top 5 MCU films, Guardians of the Galaxy being one of them, and of course Black Panther, going to Wakanda, seeing T'Chaka, seeing the Dora Milaje. It was just a lot of fun, and of course, you know, like I said, this being dedicated to Chadwick Boseman was really emotional and just really hits home when you just think of the legacy that he left and all the stuff that he had planned in his career. So again, let's show some love to the man Chadwick Boseman in the comment section. But again, I just really enjoyed this episode. But let's talk about the actual episode. Let's break it all down. As we see, first thing off the bat, we relive the first couple minutes, the opening scene of Guardians of the Galaxy. But Peter Quill was dancing around and all that stuff, which I gotta say, if I were to kind of jump into some of my criticisms, I wish that there was the soundtrack that we have in the Guardians films was a little bit more impactful in this. Obviously, we know that T'Challa didn't have like a CD or have a tape dedicated to the time period he was taken from. But I would have loved that they still would have gave me a little bit more of that soundtrack that we come to used to in that universe. But nonetheless, he's not dancing around. This Star-Lord is all about his business. And we also know that this Star-Lord is very respected in the galaxy. He is a hero, unlike Peter Quill, who's a scavenger and people don't even know who. We don't even get that. They know who Star-Lord is in this version, which I love. And seeing him working with the Ravengers, seeing Yondu and him side by side, and just seeing, again, his whole philosophy. His hero on Earth is Robin Hood. And as we know in this episode, he steals from the rich and gives back to the poor. So I love this version of Star-Lord. I love that Chadwick was able to play a little bit with the goofy nature of the character Star-Lord, but also give us the stuff that we know from Chadwick Boseman, and particularly when he plays T'Challa, he's revered. He has that stoic type of presence, and I love that we get the best of both worlds with this character. So we get that flashback, because my thing was, how the hell did the Ravengers get into Wakanda and not have this war and the galaxy being taken out by the Wakandans, because they are capable of doing that, ladies and gentlemen. But no, we see that this version of T'Challa, he doesn't want to be locked in a bubble. He feels like a prisoner in Wakanda. So we see him outside playing with a spear. The spear goes outside of the dome, and that's where, unfortunately, Yondu delegated his mission to Ego, telling him to get Peter Quill, but they end up taking the wrong kid. But he sees right off the bat that this kid isn't scared. This kid wants to explore the galaxy, and this is where Yondu takes in T'Challa, and that's where he becomes Star-Lord and becomes a part of the Ravengers. So, speaking of the Ravengers, we see them celebrating. We learn of all the victories that T'Challa as Star-Lord has accomplished, whether it be defeating the Skrull, or more importantly, being able to talk Thanos, the Mad Titan, out of genocide and not wiping out half of humanity, which I gotta say, this is just an MCU problem. The power scaling in the Marvel Cinematic Universe is all over the place, and I'll take my MCU knowledge away and appreciate this episode, because obviously in this version, Thanos was not the Thanos we know in the MCU. He's a gardener. He was getting beat up a few times in this episode, but he definitely had a different mindset. And even the Collector, to me in this episode, was more menacing than Thanos was, right? The Collector was almost like the Thanos of this story, because people feared the Collector, who we'll talk about here in a second. But, hearing that, and I'll say this, even though I don't like the power, the lesser version of Thanos, I do like that he was able to be talked to by T'Challa, because that shows you just the power of T'Challa, which just is a whole nother story about why the Marvel Cinematic Universe should recast T'Challa, because he is such a big presence in the Marvel Universe, and he is a diplomat. He can talk people out of it. He's obviously a great warrior, but he's also a great, person that can talk down wars. He can also, reason with people. So that just hurts my heart that they're not going to recast T'Challa. But again, that's another story for another day. But nonetheless, it was interesting to see this weaker version of the Mad Titan. But speaking of the Mad Titan, with him not, destroying different planets, we see another version of Drax, and we see he's working in as a bartender. His wife and kid are alive as he takes a picture with Star-Lord, but also we have a different version of Nebula. Nebula is a dime piece in this version, right? She's not as hardened. She's not as, evil and wants revenge. She had a little bit of revenge with her dad, but they're not as, hateful as it is in the MCU. So seeing Nebula was pretty interesting. We didn't get Gamora, which I know Gamora will be in the What If series, so I wonder what she's doing in this universe. Is she good? Is she bad? Is she like the Nebula of her story? And maybe Thanos didn't appreciate her like he did in the MCU. We'll see what comes of that. But nonetheless, Nebula gives T'Challa or Star-Lord and the Ravagers their new mission to get the Ambers of Genesis, I believe was the name of the artifact that they were going to go after. And like I said, his whole thing is, with this new artifact, we can feed billions of people across the galaxy, because again, Star-Lord is all about the people in this story. But let's go back to the power scaling. As we meet the Collector in this story, like I said, he is extremely feared in this story, and the Black Order works for him. Not for Thanos, but they work for him, and we get the mission of the week, which is a lot of fun, and this is where we get all the cameos, where they go to the Collector's place. We get Howard the Duck, who's like a tour guide for Star-Lord in this episode, which I thought was fun, and we also see, this is where the truth comes out for Star-Lord, as he comes across a Wakandan ship, and he sees a beacon call from T'Chaka looking for his son, and learning the truth that Yondu lied to him. And Yondu says, yes, I told you Wakanda was destroyed because you're an explorer. You don't need to be locked down. You don't need to be a king of this this country in Wakanda. You need to be the king of the galaxy and explore the galaxy. So we get that similarities with Yondu in this story, as he lied to Peter as he did in the Guardians of the Galaxy. But nonetheless, we see the episode kind of play out as we think Nebula has betrayed T'Challa, or to say Star-Lord, but it was all a part of his plan. And we also see this awesome battle, which again, the Collector was a badass in this episode, which I really wish that version of Collector was in Guardians of the Galaxy, was in Infinity War, but we get this lesser, weakened version of the Collector, which, again, this What If has really highlighted some things that I wish we can get in the actual Marvel Cinematic Universe. But we see Star-Lord versus the Collector, as well as Yondu gets in the mix, and we see this awesome Easter eggs as the Collector is using his collections to fight these two, whether we see Cap's shield, I believe I saw Thor's hammer, he's using the Dark Elf's dagger, he uses Hela's helmet and her daggers. That moment was just so cool, seeing that he's able, again, he's a badass. He was able to obtain all these artifacts from all those characters that we've come to love in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So again, if we can get this version of Collector somehow, some way into the MCU, that would be pretty cool. But nonetheless, we see our weakened version of the Gardener Thanos getting his ass beat. He takes out the little goons, but he wasn't able to go one-on-one with, or I should say, go against Proxima Midnight and go against the I can't think of the character's name, but wasn't able to go against the Black Order. He was pretty getting his ass handed to him, and it's just like, this is so embarrassing, because Thanos was able to take out the Hulk without an Infinity Gauntlet, without any Infinity Stones, but he can't take out the Black Order. I'm just like, whatever, it is what it is. But we see Nebula, who helps her dad out in the fight. They ultimately escape, and then we go back to T'Challa, Star-Lord, and Yondu. They're able to take out the Collector, and we see the Collector gets betrayed by his employees, employer or his employee, and she lets out all of his collections. They take him out ultimately, and they end up, saving the day and accomplishing the mission. So that stuff was all cool, even though lesser version of Thanos and a better version of what we get with the Collector. We end the episode with T'Challa going back home, and I love the interaction between the Wakandans and what we get with the Ravengers. We see Shuri, we see T'Chaka, we see all the Ravengers interacting with them. That was a lot of fun to kind of wrap up the episode and just seeing them interact. But we end with Peter Quill, who's working at a Dairy Queen, which is funny because we know in Guardians 2, his mom and his dad Ego went to Dairy Queen, and he's working there, and we see Ego comes in there looking for his son, and the Watcher says, oh, that's another story for another day, as he's planning to destroy the world, as we know in Guardians 2. But at the end of the episode, we get the dedication. We get this episode being dedicated to the man himself, Chadwick Boseman. Like I said, in about 10 days, it'll be an entire year since he's passed away. So I thought that this episode really did honor the man, Chadwick Boseman, as he plays T'Challa, as he plays this stoic version of Star-Lord, having some fun in the character. Again, Marvel, it really does irk my nerves that you're not going to recast the character T'Challa, because this episode really shows you the diplomat, the man that he could be in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So hopefully they'll make that change sooner rather than later. I have no problems with Shuri being the Black Panther, temporarily, but I want to see T'Challa in the MCU, ladies and gentlemen. Let's get that happen, Kevin Feige. But nonetheless, this episode was fantastic from top to bottom. Really fun adventure. Again, mixing the Guardians and Black Panther worlds together was a lot of fun. And again, honoring the man himself, Chadwick Boseman, really kind of hit me in the feels. So, fantastic episode. Can't wait to see what next episode has to offer. Again, guys, join us today at 5 p.m. Central Time to discuss more about the episode, talk about the highs, the lows, talk about Shang-Chi's first reactions, talk about the Eternal movie updates, and so much more. So hope you all can tune in. Hope you all enjoyed this review. If you stuck around to this point in the video, thank you so much. I appreciate every single one of you all. Make sure, if you haven't already, to like the video, share the video, leave your thoughts in the comments, and of course, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Hope you all are staying safe. We'll see you later today at 5 p.m. Thank you all for watching this video, and we'll see you on the next one.